So the vision for the future that's important. So I think there's two different things, or there's three things. Three is a magic number in science. Three roughly. There's three things. So the first is simply sustaining it. So that never actually sounds very interesting to anybody, because they always want to hear about growth. But we've been in these first few years tremendously successful, and we've actually been surprisingly successful. We've gone within the biology department. A few years ago, we had somewhere around 3% of our incoming class were students who were community scholars, low-income first-gen students, and usually from racial or ethnic minorities. This coming year, 20%, over 20%, about 22% of the incoming biology class are students who are low-income first-gen and predominantly racial ethnic minorities. Keeping that number at 20% makes us a national anomaly. Aside from HBCUs and other institutions who have at the very core of their mission this sort of work, that just makes us look different from basically anybody else who's out there. And sustaining that, I have no illusions that that's going to be a worthy challenge. And figuring out how you sustain that in people, in incoming students, in the financial means of supporting them is a significant challenge. But I am perpetually hungry, and the need is perpetually larger. So how do we grow it? And I would say it's perhaps not so much about growing it even just within STEM, although we're not reaching fully within STEM here at Georgetown. So I think in part because I'm a biologist, and in part because life sciences just attract more students, we're currently more successful within the life sciences than we are more broadly within STEM at Georgetown. But there's also no reason why this is a STEM thing you asked to start with. And there are other disciplines or pieces within disciplines who struggle similarly. So social sciences are broad, but we know, for example, economics struggles nationally as well as at Georgetown for diversity. And so I think one place for growth, for obvious growth, is to think about how it is that we reach more widely. I think that there's also a challenge in the pipeline. So one of the things that we're exploring is reaching out to community colleges to figure out what it looks like to provide accessibility for the very large percentage of our population who simply isn't ready for a four-year institution upon graduating from high school. And that can be academically ready, but that can also be just in terms of the advice that they're getting, the resources that they're getting in terms of just being ready to apply. And so applying to your local community college isn't very straightforward. You can do that last minute. You have to ramp up a good year in advance to do it to a school like Georgetown. And a lot of students don't get to that recognition until it's too late for that cycle. So we need to do a better job of figuring out that pipeline. And I think community colleges are going to be a tremendously important piece of that moving forward. But I lied. There's actually a fourth reason, or the fourth goal for the future. The fourth goal for the future is that I don't think Georgetown's impact on this is ever going to be about scale. Right? So we're a relatively small institution, and we can make a difference for individuals, and those individuals can make a difference in communities. But I think one thing that Georgetown has is the ability to be, perhaps because we're small, is to be nimble with our creativity. So I think one of the roles that Georgetown can serve in all of this work is in development of models, how it looks like to do things, and to be both creative in the design of those models, which I think partnering with a winery comes high on the list of the creativity aspects. I think we can be creative in designing them. I think that we can be we can have courage in doing them because we'll fail. Right? All of our choices aren't going to be good ones. And if you want to make big change, you're going to have failure. So I think we're going to need to be courageous in ways that are sometimes hard for institutions to be courageous. And I think we're going to have to be very good at telling our story and not telling the clean version, right? Not telling the happy, feel-good version, but telling the story about how we do this work and the strengths and the weaknesses of it in ways that others can learn from. So I'm a scientist. I believe in data. And I think what we need to do are tell data-rich stories about the process and what it looks like to help others find ways into the work.